So maybe the ultimate WordPress hack is being able to control WordPress using the command line. Now I know for a lot of people this sounds crazy, but there are some good reasons to use the command line. Usually when there's a command line involved, it's there so that you could go and do things that aren't in a user interface. Part of the problem with a user interface like WordPress has, or your operating system, or just about anything you use online, everything's got to have a button. Everything has to have a control, a setting, or whatever. So when you have things that are more complex, you just can't keep adding buttons and controls. But a command line you can, because they're not there. You can just add new commands. So it's nice to have a command line to let you go beyond the regular interface. So let's look at how to do it. Now first off, how to install it. So obviously you need to have command line access to your server. So assuming you have command line access to your server, the place to go is wp-cli.org, and that's where you can get it. It has installation instructions here. Of course that's going to vary depending upon your system and setup and all of that. There's some different ways to install it listed here. And you can find other tutorials probably for your specific host. If you Google your host and wp-cli, you may come up with a tutorial that says how to do it for your host. They may already have it installed too. That's another option. So what do we got here? Well, once you have it installed, you use wp as the command. Just wp. That's it. So like wp space help gives me the basic information here. And I can see some of the stuff that I could do. So some of the commands are things like just tons of stuff. Working with comments, posting, menus. It looks like pretty much everything is covered. A lot of this stuff, it would be crazy to do it in the command line interface. It's so much easier in the graphic user interface on the web. But it is interesting that it's there, and there are of course things that are difficult to do otherwise. So let's take a look at some. So for instance, like a big one for me is being able to do quick database exports, right? Everybody tells you back up your database before you do something or whatever. So a really quick way to do it is in this command line interface, wp-space db export. That's it. Look, it just exported. I have a nice file there now in my main directory, and I can grab that, and I've saved the entire database, backed it all up. You can do things like plugin list. You can see this list of plugins. It even tries to look like a graphic interface there. And you can activate plugins this way. So let's do that. There we go. Now I go back to list and I can see it's active. And I can go and let's deactivate. Great. So I can do that. You can actually do WP post. You can post. So I can do WP post. I'm going to do WP help post. And it's going to give me some stuff about this. I can do create, delete, edit. You can generate posts. So the generate command is really interesting in that you can generate a bunch of posts. So if you want to fill a site with posts, you can do it. You can. I think it does like 100 by default or 50 or something. But you can have the number. You can put content in there. There's even an example where you could go and let's see if I just continue down here. There's some examples, and one of these examples is generating a post. There it is with lorem ipsum text. So you could do all sorts of crazy things. I mean, that would be difficult to do in the user interface. Generate like 100 posts with a bunch of text in them. There's also this search replace thing that searches the database and replaces stuff. So that's really interesting and useful. You don't have to actually go and use MySQL to do it. You can use this WP search command. So all sorts of crazy weird things that you could do. You can look up in that help there, the general help. You can start looking into the different things that are here. Lots of cool stuff that you can dig into. And and play around with. So if you're into command line interfaces, or sometimes like you want to do something and there's a way to do it in WordPress but only through the command line interface, there's actually one called Scaffold, which will create things like it'll create a basic theme or create a basic block or plugin or a bunch of different things. So it's like a template for it. So then it throws all this code in there. For writing blocks, it's the most useful way to get started. So look at the Scaffold command too. Lots of cool stuff to play around with.